In today's episode, I'm sitting down with Nikki Novo. She is one of the most talented intuitive readers that I've ever met in my life, and I have a yearly reading with her around my birthday every year as a treat. And I just had to have her on the show because, as many of you know, or maybe you don't if you don't follow me on Instagram and you only listen to the show, but after 10 years of being an herbalist and running my herbal health and wellness company and this podcast and Organic Olivia the way that I have and being so herb and wellness focused, I had a huge epiphany this past year that my soul was telling me to go back to my first love, which is music. Because as a child, I was an opera singer and studied voice and piano for many years. And it was my entire life's dream until my health got so bad that I needed to kind of like switch gears and figure that out. And thankfully, I was able to share the health journey with people like you guys, and we were able to help each other heal and get stronger. So I'm actually very grateful that life derailed me and brought me into the wellness world so that I could be able to make meaning out of the really difficult health experiences that I had and become like a guinea pig and a teacher and an herbalist and all of the things. I feel like it was so necessary for my path. But at the same time, my soul was telling me, you have a new story to tell. Like, this is not the last thing you're supposed to create, and you're not supposed to just stop here helping people with their health. You're supposed to make art and bring people along for that ride because the world needs more artists. And so it's not like I came to this realization overnight, and it's not like I woke up one day and was like, I'm going to be a singer, and now I am a singer again. It was a very difficult void, dark night of the soul, if you will, death and rebirth, if you will, which is exactly why I started the season with that episode on death and rebirth, because I had just experienced it myself, and I had spent the last 3 or so years questioning, why do I feel like I'm not supposed to just be Organic Olivia anymore? I'm going to disappoint so many people. I'm going to ruin my life. I'm going to, let all these people down, including my team and my company. I was so confused as to why my soul was telling me I needed to step back and create space for something new to come in, because I had no idea what that new thing was and what wanted to come in its place. I was not thinking anywhere near music. I had left that dream behind when I was 13, 14 and stopped singing opera. So I've had a really hard time behind the scenes the last few years. And I'm sure many of you guys noticed the way that I posted on Instagram less and went quiet for months at a time. And my content changed and I kind of changed and became more introspective and less external. My whole value system changed. My whole world changed. And I went through it like an identity death. And in the depths of that death, when I was so confused about my life, I would go to Nikki Novo and I would get my little reading. And she would tell me for those years, there's some kind of art coming through for you. This art wants to come through, and I don't know what it is, but it feels like Organic Olivia was one body of work. She goes, pretend you're Taylor Swift, and Organic Olivia was one album, because Nikki loves to use metaphors, as you'll hear in the episode and in her content. And she's like, so Organic Olivia is one album, and then you're going to make your next body of work, which is your next album, but it's going to be a totally different body of work, but it'll reach people just like Organic Olivia did. And it actually might even be bigger than Organic Olivia. And I was like, what do you mean, art? Am I gonna paint with oil pastels? And that's what I did for a while. Painted with a lot of oil pastels. I could not understand why Nikki and then other readers and spiritual people that I worked with kept telling me that I was going to be an artist, because when you think artist, you think painter or something. And interestingly, it did start to come through painting, and that's what I first did to start opening up my artistic vessel, I guess. I painted for 6 or 7 months before I even had a ping to start writing songs and before I realized that music was my thing, but the painting opened it up. And in those moments where I had the hardest time with the death and rebirth process that I talked about in that episode, where you are so angry with yourself because it feels like you're betraying yourself by leaving this perfectly good life behind, but you just have to jump because you know that you need to make the space blindly for whatever's coming through without knowing. And it's the worst, scariest thing ever. In those moments, Nikki had said this one phrase to me in a reading, and we talk about it in this episode, but she said to me, I see your funeral. She's like, I literally can see your funeral right now. And when you die, people are going to say, oh, that artist died. That beloved artist. People around the world will know you for art. It gave me so much peace in the craziest way to hear about your funeral, but it just gave me so much peace because it allowed me to envision a future where I did successfully do something different and I wasn't locked into one path forever. And I don't know, maybe like a part of me thought I would die as a business owner or as Organic Olivia, but my soul knew I needed to do something else in addition to that, and that like all of us were multifaceted and deserved to grow. And when I was spiraling in those moments, I would just repeat the fact that even though I didn't know what kind of art was coming through next, Nikki saw me die as an artist. So it's gonna come through. And it just helped me to trust and hold on in the void until my music was ready to come. And again, for those of you who might not have the full history on the music, because I haven't released my episode yet telling my music story, but I started writing music with an amazing co-writer and producer in the fall of 2024. And I just finished writing and recording all 9 songs for my album. We finished it in like 90 days in a crazy whirlwind. And it happened so fast and came through so magically that I knew in my soul that this is what I was meant to be doing. And I've never felt more like myself than I feel when I'm making music. And so now I'm in the preparatory stages of sharing that music with you, like filming music videos, filming content, telling the story of the song, showing the behind the scenes, like shooting my album cover. Like I'm kind of preparing to come out to the world as an artist after being one archetype for so long. And it's terrifying, but it's so exciting at the same time because I know this is a story I'm meant to tell now. And yeah, I can't believe that I am here. It'll still be a few months, of course. There's a lot of work left to do, but it's actually coming. The rebirth is actually happening, and I finally know that it's real. So I wanted to have Nikki on because that's how amazing she is, that she told me this process was happening literally years before it came. And it was so helpful to have her to talk to and to like help me feel that I was not crazy. And we talk a lot about like stepping into your gifts in this episode and kind of what hindered me for so long. If you guys also feel that way and you know you have a gift that you left behind in childhood that you want to rekindle, like she has some beautiful things to say about sharing your gifts and like letting them come through. And it's just a cool conversation that I hope helps you to believe in magic. So enjoy as always, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Let's talk real life, right? I think the best way to move through life is to always be the student and to always be curious. Life will show you either way. It's just how you choose to listen. And you can always count on you. You will always have your own back. This is not the last thing you'll create. Play is the process. Sometimes it has to be dramatic. That's the funny part. When your back's up against the wall, you will prevail. You're allowed to grow and change. You are allowed to birth something new. I hope you make your art. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Olivia.
What a special episode today. We had very limited time today. So we just figured, you know what, let's just sit down and get everything out because we have some important life updates. And I want to tell people how instrumental you've been in guiding me to where I am in life right now. And it's like 3 years later and your predictions from 3 years ago have all come true. So, and I have them all written down. So I just want to kind of like talk about that and have a chat about life.
And I like selfishly, like I know that we didn't have time for like 2 interviews and lunch. So it's like, it's just going to all have to happen here. Yeah. Like this is going to have to be like our lunch catch up because I want to know like everything that's going on. So that's what we're here for.
Oh yeah. And I feel like it's, if we don't do an episode at this moment in time to kind of like put a pin in where we are and the excitement of like what's happening now, we're going to lose this moment. And I have so much to share. So this is kind of like selfishly for me, a good way for me to share with my folks, like what's happening right this second, where I'm almost done recording my music album as a recording artist randomly.
I don't know. It's like one of those things that like, you know, when you have a friend and you're like, I guess I'm kind of surprised, but I'm not really surprised. I remember like when I came out of the closet and like told my brothers that I'm like, I think I'm psychic. Like, are you guys weirded out? Do you think I'm weird? And I remember my younger brother being like, you've always been weird. Like, you know, it's like kind of like he expected that from me. And I feel that with you. Like, I'm almost like, yes, okay, it is like a little different, but at the same time, it just suits you and fits you. And then I heard you sing and I was like, but how is this even possible? I was like, this is like how it's so crazy to me that you've been like walking around on the planet with this gift and somehow I guess not thinking that it was maybe good enough or worth it of putting it out. Like, how did that even happen? You've been walking around with like a diamond in you and like, did you just like not know to let it out?
When you're saying this right now, I'm resonating with it. I'm like, yeah, damn, I was. But I don't even think it's until last Thursday or Friday when I made these songs that I just made, that I could even feel what you just said is true in my body. I was kind of like, yeah, I have like a gift, but I didn't understand that the gift was like not just my voice, but also my ability to write music and like put real emotion into songs. And like, I don't know, like it's like so much deeper than even the singing. There's like a gift of making music that I needed to tap into. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it was more that I was walking around being like, yeah, I could sing, but a lot of people could sing.
Okay. So that's kind of like all you really noticed was the singing. But this is my belief about gifts. Like, I think first of all, they could be very dormant. I think the innate ones don't look like much at first until you start like breathing life into it. So it also sounds like as you started to work with like this music partner and like put a little bit of like muscle into it, is also at the end of the day is like what's making you feel like you found something.
Yes. The first trip that I took to start writing for this album, I had a feeling, I had an inkling like, okay, I know I'm loving doing this in a way that haven't loved anything in a very, very long time. So I'm just going to trust that feeling above trusting, oh, I have a gift that I need to release. And there was a part of me that had a moment. I had like this whole kind of like psychic experience where I felt like my mom, who is still on this earth, but is kind of in the ether because of her Alzheimer's.
Yes. And that is very, like, that is something we see all the time. Like, I see that all the time. Like, I've accidentally thought somebody's mom was passed away, but it was like, no, that they just have Alzheimer's. And it's really because like the soul leaves the body and it's like, it's kind of boring inside the body. So I'm just kind of hanging around.
Yes. And that is what's so interesting. A few weeks ago, before I left for my first music trip, because I recorded my first 2 songs for this album in November. I wrote another 4 in December just now, and I'm going to write the final 2 in January. So, or God willing. But before I left for my November trip, which was really like me setting out to sea to go try this album, I was, sitting next to my mom, who was totally like out of her body. Just, a lot of times she just sits there and is very nonverbal and will play music, and she'll often tap along or even hum along to like, as long as it's 50s tunes from her earliest memories. If it's anything after that, she doesn't have it. But there's music in her, which I think is also very spiritual considering all of this. But she usually is just in that land, and you have to be like, hi, earth to Linda. Like, she loves the earth to Linda, and she'll kind of like look over at you like a baby. And sometimes she'll say hi or like one word. But this time I was leaving for my album. I was talking to her because I feel like her soul can hear me. And I was saying, Mom, I'm about to start recording an album. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, do you have any words of advice for me? I love you. And, she didn't say anything. And then I went to go leave. And usually that's when you can get a word or 2 out of her because a hello or a goodbye activates her. So I said, goodbye, Mom, I love you. And I gave her a hug. And it was like she just tapped into her body. And she goes, and so many things are songs. And then she just like left again. And I was like, oh, like she's telling me I got songs in me.
Oh my God.
I got a lot of songs.
So many things are songs. Like, to me, that is like anything is a song, or like, that there's so much there that it's like endless.
That was kind of like the sentiment I needed to be like, okay, it's not like this is just going to be a fluke. Because even while I was recording, even while I was writing this week, I had a moment where I was like, okay, I just channeled an entire song and freestyled it and spit it out of my body. And I've never done that before in my life, but it's probably just a fluke. And this is the only time it's going to happen.
Yeah. Because I mean, the artist at the end of the day thinks that their emotions have to be like up and down, or, you have to have like a bunch of breakups, or you have to be going through something like crazy to be able to write. And I think that's the scary part of being an artist, because it feels like anytime you hit something that does well, you're like afraid that you're not going to be able to like repeat that.
Yes. Yes. And it's so much less about repeating what you just did and so much more about simply being present to the process of whatever the next thing wants to be, and just being in it and being like, okay, well, I'm here now. Like, that happened. It's being able to move off the mark really quickly, I think. And that's why writing these songs way quicker than I expected has been helpful, because in one day I got in the booth and wrote one song. And then in the second half of that day, we made another beat. And my producer, or my co-writer, who's also producing, was like, all right, Olivia, go in the booth and do it again. And I was like, it's been 3 hours. Like, don't I have time to like go home and spin out about how I'm probably not gonna be able to do that thing again? And he was like, you showed me that you got it. So you got it. And I jumped in the booth and was like, okay, like, let me just feel. I feel like the more I try to explain it, the less I do justice to it, because it's not something that can be explained.
And I wonder, like, it's truly like a channel. You're like opening yourself up like a vessel,
Mhm.
and then letting that work to come through. But are you so scared of like being able to repeat it? Do you think you can?
No. I think I can do it now.
Yes.
And it's only because I did it for 4 days straight.
Exactly. And I think like, for example, with me doing readings, that can be scary too. Like, oh man, like I was good for so-and-so, but am I going to be able to like repeat that success with so-and-so? But what has helped me is always kind of like having a little bit of like almost like a ritual around it, or like a formula, right?
Yes.
Like kind of being like, okay, this is how you start, this is how you end. Because even in my readings, the inside is very flow, but there's like a way I started, there's a way I end it, like there's a paper, there's a place I sit. And it's not being superstitious. I think it's like opening up the container.
I'm a little superstitious about it. I have to wear pink underwear and blue shoes.
No, you're such a liar. That is lies.
You think I wasn't in there wearing pink underwear and blue shoes?
No,
You're crazy. Like, and if it wasn't that, it was blue underwear and pink shoes.
How does one have so many pink underwears? I mean,
I have a lot of very bright colored underwear. It's all I wear.
Really?
Yeah, I wear like it kind of gives like Victoria's Secret pink vibes.
what is happening?
I don't wear womanly underwear.
I only wear like nudes, I think.
That's lovely. I'm sure. I think that probably looks best. But I'm over here. I like to pick. I'm so superstitious. I pick my underwear color based on like what I need to channel that day. So if I need a little root chakra, I do red.
No, but that makes sense to me. I mean, that's not like. And then what is pink?
You know, it was that there was a day that I woke up and was like, I need to be in all light blue. I don't know why. I just felt like, and this was the day that I started to this is the day everything unlocked.
Well, that's throat chakra.
Yeah.
And like you were unlocking that center.
And it was also this like light, it had to be light ocean blue. So it almost, I think it needed to calm some of the fire of the anxiety I was having or like the nervousness. And I have this thing where I've talked about this on episodes before, but I'll share with you because you'll like it. When my mom was pregnant with me, she went to her psychic. And she didn't know she was pregnant. This was like years ago, 90s Manhattan. And her psychic, Vincent, was like, oh my goodness, congratulations, you're pregnant. And she was like, what? Because my girl was not trying to be pregnant. And he was like, yes, it's going to be a girl, but just letting you know, it has the soul of a boy. Like this is very, like this is a boy. This is a male soul, but she's going to be a girl and she's going to love being a girl.
Yeah.
And my mom always said that to me. So I always joke around with like Marty and whoever. I'm like, you guys know I'm a boy. I mean, look how I'm sitting. Like, come on. So I have very male energy. I'm very like young. I'm like a business person, all the things. I'm pushy. I don't care to assert myself. That's fine. And I felt like I needed to kind of like honor the boy of me, but soften it kind of. And then I was like, okay, so I'm light blue boy today, but I needed a little balance. So I was like, but you got to put a pink shoe on. So I did that. And then that day I wrote 2 bangers and was like, oh, damn, better do this again.
That's so, what's so interesting? Because like, so when I don't remember what reading it was, but we have definitely talked a lot about the inner child with you, like a ton of, like, and I think with creativity, to me, there's always this relationship between like the inner creative and the inner like momager. Yeah. So like instead of like the inner child and the inner mother, I'm like, I think it's like a momager, like that manager part of you.
Yes.
And then that like artist, and I wonder like, because talent and gift really comes like from that childlike part of ourselves. And that's definitely like what you're, reclaiming in a sense. It was almost like, it's like an ode to the mother in you to be able to like pick those colors and to like dress yourself that way. To me, it was like almost like that, like the instinct to like be the good manager to this talent.
Yeah. And I think I have to mother myself in order to let the music come through. Because my inner child only feels safe when she has a loving mother. And a loving mother doesn't mean that she lets her do whatever she wants.
Yes.
A loving mother means that she stays disciplined about her breath work in the morning and takes time to meditate and clear and release because that's what makes me feel the best and opens the channel. She makes sure that at night before bed, I'm not sitting there listening to a YouTube channel to fall asleep. I'm taking time to lay with my hand on my chest and say, hi, let's talk about today. Let's go over it in our minds. What did you like? What did you not like? If I don't spend that time as my own mother with myself, that's where things start to get heavy and then the gift starts to get clouded and I'm less open to the gift.
Of course, because I think, again, if we look at that as like the gift has to be respected, like like a gift really can't grow unless it's respected. Because like you said, everybody walks around. There's a lot of people that walk around that can sing, right? But like some people respect it and like kind of value it differently. So if you really did have like this manager who was like overseeing the talent, they would respect this gift and be like, we need to take care of this gift. So in a weird way, it's like, it's like you're caring for yourself because you respect that there is like a gift within you. You know, it's a form of self-love.
What's hard is that the manager or the momager, which is like, I love that you named that because that's what I call my part. I'm like, the manager's here. The manager's like making me perform for a podcast or is making me write, do my work on my computer for 8 hours when I have to. And like, sometimes I'm annoyed with her. But there's that balance of like the manager setting up the conditions for the child to perform. And also the manager knowing when to step off and knowing when to let the inner child play and be free and have the unstructured time that you told me in every reading you gave me that I need. You were like, can you stop with the schedule and the work? Like, can you give yourself unstructured time where you can kind of like come up with cool things randomly?
Especially for such like, like you're just such a creative energy. So I just remember being like, this is so funny to me. How did this person become so structured when like, that's like not even like the essence of.
Yeah, I think I became so structured to like provide for myself. There was just that strong manager protector part of like, okay, cool. Like, your parents are not gonna be able to really provide for you kind of in a way of like emotionally / whatever. And then financially, it was always rough. So I think that part just activated and was like, we're going to make sure we have a life where we feel safe. And then we can kind of do our thing. I feel like I almost knew that my artist was going to need that because the only reason I'm able to make my art now and do it the right way and do it independently on my own terms is because I forced myself to work for so many years.
Well, we were talking about that off camera, right? Like if you guys know anything about the chakras, if we start at the bottom, it's the first one is the root chakra. And this is like your base. This is, this energy has to do with like home, money, family, like all the, the very human stuff. And I think, and survival, it's basically like about survival. And right above that is the sacral, which is like the creative center and it's the feminine center and all that. But I just don't think until we have like that base where we feel safe enough to then create. So sometimes like it's just not time to create because you have to get to like a safe place. And it sounds like, you intuitively knew to do that the first few.
I was impatient. I think
that's how you got here so quickly.
What?
That's how you got here so quickly, being, young and having like, the success you've had.
No, I said I was impatient.
Oh.
Like not in life. You're right. In the grand scheme of things, I'm 31. We're fine. But in the scheme of like me going from being a business owner, health and wellness influencer to being like, here's my album, guys, see you on tour. That I was sort of like, I could feel that older part of me was like expiring in a way, like archetypically, in terms of how I was supposed to be putting my energy into showing up. It's not like that doesn't continue to live on in its own way and that what I created there doesn't get to continue to help people. But I just felt that part of me was dying. And you were identifying that time and time again in your readings. You're like, your soul's renegotiating its contract because it doesn't really like doing herbs and business. Like you wanted to do herbs for fun and then you made it a business. So your soul is like a little annoyed with you. And so, I was identifying that death. I was in the death then. Like once you realize that a part of you is expiring and sometimes you accept it and sometimes you fight it and it makes it harder. Then I was in the nothingness and the void. And sometimes the void feels like it's going on forever and you don't notice that you actually are creating the space for something to come through because we think that something always needs to be coming through and that we have to know. And I was obsessively trying to know what was coming. So it's so funny. I have my notes from the readings that you gave me and specifically the reading you gave me like 3 years ago where you kept saying that this new body of work was coming, but you didn't say music once. You just said,
I wonder if I wasn't supposed to.
No, that's what I'm saying. So like, because I was being such a little annoying freak about having to know.
Yeah.
If you had told me, if they let you tell me it was music, are you kidding? No. Yeah. I needed to not know, but I needed the reassurance of like, something's coming, just wait. Yes. So it was just all about creating the space and being okay with the nothingness. That's where everything comes from, making space.
Of course. And, like that womb space, that's where things are like born, that darkness, like that's where things are like come out of. But would you say that also when you're in that dark, like that womb space or whatever, where the creation comes, I also feel like sometimes we accidentally have like false pregnancies almost. Like
Mhm.
we are like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that. And then people get mad at themselves because they're like, oh, that never really came to be, or I never followed through with that or whatever. But it's really because like that wasn't like the true baby.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sometimes you
were
need
doing some of that.
practice.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in school in health class and they give you the fake baby.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I'm a painter.
Yes.
I'm Michelangelo. Oh my God, reincarnated. But it was a fake baby in health class. It wasn't the freaking painting. And you said, I'm looking at your reading right now. This is my notes. You said,
so because you take notes when I'm doing the readings.
Oh, obsessively. The
fine.
manager is on at all times. She doesn't get.
Well, we
break.
appreciate this because our future selves appreciate your past self.
Yeah. So you said to me, I was like, yeah, I think I'm supposed to paint and like develop like an art therapy program with painting for your inner child. And you said, yeah, paint for now. You said paint for now. You said in the future you're going to write a book. It's not about health. But it is about healing. It's just not herbalism based. You said it's kind of a little bit about the story of what creativity does for you, which I didn't know what it was going to do for me.
I am going to say, if I had to predict right now, I know the music's coming. It's cracking me up, like how it's just going to blow up, and it's like hilarious to me because I'm like, this is the funniest thing, because I don't think I like saw that when I was first doing the reading. But my prediction though is there is also kind of like a self-helpy kind of, again, like a talk or something. There's some sort of message that's going to come like it's going to be like packaged with this in a weird way. So maybe the book would be something like that. It's kind of, but there's a message here.
I mean, the podcast season is like a 1-for-1 for the meaning of the songs on the album. It's like kind of crazy. Like there's like a song about generational cycles. There's a song about, and I mean, I refer to that in the podcast season a lot. I actually have a song that I haven't played for Marty yet. It's the next one that's coming. I have a song that was born from me talking to my inner child. I let myself just have a channeled conversation before bed one night and like thanked her from my higher self, and also told the manager, I need you to chill. I told the manager, listen, like, look what she's done. She worked so hard for you for 10 years. Let her play now. Yeah, she's going to be fine. Look at what she did today when you gave her the free time. Look at what, like, just trust her, please. Like I was like talking to the manager and also talking to myself and saying, you killed it. Now you get to have fun and play. And I like put my voice recording thing on my phone and like just let myself go into it. And then when I was finished, I looked and it was like 43 minutes. Oh. And I was like, oh, I was in there for that long. And then I took that and I like chopped up pieces of it because I was singing to myself, not just talking. When I was saying all that stuff, I was singing it. I was like, you did so good writing your blog posts, and you wrote your podcast stuff, and you wrote scripts for days, and you sat at the computer. Like I was like doing my little kid stuff. I used to sing to myself like that before, but as a little kid. And I chopped up pieces and I found this piece where I was singing this melody, and I actually plugged it into like an AI song thing. Because AI will take what you sang and it'll take your exact words and melody and it'll put like a track to it so you can hear what it would sound like as a song. And I was like, damn, that melody that I sang was good. And then I ended up on this trip making a song called All This Time. And it is my higher self talking to me saying, don't ever think I'm going to let you down. And it's like me saying, like, I was there for you all this time. Like, don't you worry. And then at the bridge is me in the exactly as I did in my meditation, talking to the manager saying, I'm no longer at your whim. I'm not doing what you say. I'm done with the expectations, ready to do it my own way.
Oh my God. Like, I'm just full of goosebumps. Like, I'm like dying. I can't wait to see this. And that's like, the other thing I'm thinking is like timing, right? Like with your gifts and all that, because this is the time for that kind of music. Like, just even look at what's happening in the music industry right now. Like, people can't even listen to like the songs they used to like anymore. Like, it's garbage for who was I talking to about this earlier today? Oh, it's Sophie and Erica. And I was like, we have to almost like think about like the current music industry is like Kellogg's, and then there's all these smaller people that are like, whoa, we cannot keep eating like the junk that these like big, companies are serving us. We have to like branch off and make like healthy versions of these things. And I really think that's happening. That's going to happen in music.
1,000%. And that's why now is the time that independent artists can come with a message and with,
Yes.
songs that don't have to be controlled by some dudes that are A&R and saying, well, this has to be your image and you have to write about this and you have to sexualize yourself. Because
Yes.
most female pop stars and female singers have to kind of make themselves a sex object and make that like cutesy, like Sabrina Carpenter type music. And we
Yes.
all need a little bop like that from
Yeah.
time to time. But there's very few that have done it their way. Like you look at Taylor Swift, and you referenced Taylor Swift in
Did
every
I?
reading that you had. You said, yeah, it's going to be a new body of work. Kind of how Taylor Swift has albums. Yeah, you're kind of like making a new album of your life, an album of your work. Like you were saying it, but not saying it.
I find that very unfair. It's like Spirit was like, Nikki, we're going to make you like not as accurate as you usually are, but we're still going to sprinkle it in so that like we can remember that it was like,
but what
legit.
do you mean? You were metaphorically perfectly
I guess
dead
so.
on
Yeah,
accurate.
I know. But I think like the ego in me was like, I could have also like not been metaphorical about it, but it was always there.
I couldn't know.
Yes,
Why would they
couldn't know.
let me know?
Exactly. And that's the part about like predictions and all that stuff is like, it's whatever the person can actually handle. And that is also not going to mess up the path. So if we would have
Yes.
given you that information.
I tried to book with you because you had like a conflict that you had to
Yeah.
cancel. I tried to book with you, my friend psychic Megan, and the psychic Tony that told me about the music initially the same week before I did this writing trip. All you guys canceled.
Yes.
Every single one. And my friend was like, stop booking readings. God is saying no.
That is hilarious. And I had to cancel with you for like something that I remember being like, oh my God, like I can't. Oh, because Sophie was in town, I think it was. Like you were in town.
Thank
and
God.
They like double booked me by accident. And I'm like, I just can't. I'm like going to have
God
to
is like,
tell
can
her.
you just go and like do the thing and
That's
stop
funny.
trying to know? Like this era of my life is stop trying to know. Life can
Yeah.
be so much more fun when you don't know.
And I would say that like, it's a lot of what you're doing is channeling and kind of like, you telling me back about my reading and I'm laughing with you because I don't remember a lot of it. You kind of have to be comfortable with that in the creative process. Like when you're making it, you don't know like what it is and if it's going to be good. And I think that there's
God.
there's an art to being willing to take that risk.
I mean, just read Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act. And he talks all about that. It's like, you need to just be dedicated to the process and like what it wants to be. And sometimes you can't see it initially and you can't follow a timeline and you can't have an expectation and you can't make it for other people and it has to be free. Like there's all these like things about creating things that are real and true. And it is like nothing that you would expect. And a lot of it is like completely surrendering and just kind of like being, you can't know what it's going to be.
You can't.
And sometimes like when you try too hard, it comes out so bad. Like Marty and I were trying to make a docuseries about my music journey before I started the music journey. And I was like, yeah, maybe the story is this. And maybe the story, and like, we're like fighting to find a story and tell it. And we're like, this really isn't working, huh? And I was like, you know what? Let me just go and record some songs, like no cameras or like me just setting up a camera on a stick and just see what happens. Then the songs started coming out. And now we got years of footage of me telling the stories of channeling the songs and all that. Like now that's the docuseries. It had to be revealed later in the process, only once I jumped into it. I couldn't know what I was making first.
And what made you think about doing the docuseries? Like kind of what, I feel like I don't know that part of the story.
My co-writer, Carlos, we've been doing the songs together. He was like, with your audience and you've been doing health all this time, like it would be so cool if you took them along the journey and so that they could really come into this era with you and they could really kind of like, you could tie it into like, this is part of health, which it is. And he was like, it'd be so awesome to have like a docuseries for your people. And I was like, that's a great idea. So I just got really like married to that idea because I was like, how else are people going to want to listen to my music? I have to like, ease them into it and show them and like make a story good enough to like show them why it's time for me to make music. And then I was like, no, I just have to make music and I'll still tell the story in docuseries because that's who I am. Like I have to, which you also said I was going to do.
Well, you're a sharer.
You said literally that I have to.
This is just one big testimonial for Nikki Novo in this episode.
It is. No, literally. You said your soul sharing its journey is part of what the collective needs. And the way that your soul understands itself is by putting things out there. So she said, you're going to put a camera on, explain things outwardly as a way of studying. It's better for you in a way to have a reflection of your process so that even you understand more. Teaching others is how you learn and study and is also what the collective needs. So you basically said, as you go through this art process, you're going to sit down at each stage, tell the camera what you're doing, how it came through. You're going to explain your creative process so that you understand yourself better, and you're going to help other people find their creative process.
Yeah. Like, and I mean, God, these are the things that I want to watch too. You know what I mean? Like this is literally, I think, what we want to see, like what is possible. Like this is the true stories, which I know, obviously, I know you're not doing any of the music for money because we talked about that. There's a safety already there. But of course, it would be nice for that to like be monetized, let's say.
That's the next part of your reading. You said, first body of work with Organic Olivia, there was some overcomplication. With the second body of work, it's simplified. It's going to be just as financially rewarding, but your teenage version of yourself has this starving artist belief. But don't worry.
So what do you like? That's so funny that I like, man, I'm so thorough. That's great.
She's thorough. She doesn't miss a beat. I just want to finish off your testimonial and like round it out. You know what I mean? Because I just think people need to understand the level that you're on. You basically said that this new body of work is going to be basically, quote, what was missed in childhood.
Shut the front door.
That's what you said. And this album is about me returning to my inner child and returning to my childhood gifts. You literally were like, yeah, you know, it's just, there were these creative parts of you as a child, but you were afraid to share it. So you're going to be revisiting that and reparenting yourself. And by doing that through your creative process, you're going to bring people activities and prompts, and you'll accidentally become a teacher. And then you said, yeah, you'll be in the entertainment industry. You're going to go into media or entertainment. I kept saying, what is entertainment? You're like, I don't know, entertainment.
Like, dun, 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 dun.
I know. I'm like, am I going to like do like a jig? And then you said the entertainment industry is changing a lot. And, you know, as you do this, you're going to expand your audience and get bigger opportunities. And the last thing that you said that honestly propelled me through the nothingness, because it was so hard to like sit.
It was hard. I remember reading you during those years. It was hard. Like it was hard. I felt for you.
I felt completely lost and disconnected from myself, and I felt like I was never going to make anything again in my life, and it was over for me. I had one good shot with business, and I was done.
Yeah,
but you
like,
said
I peaked at 27.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna go be. You know, I'm just gonna work at the grocery store. I'm cool. But what you said was, you are going to die being known as an artist.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, all the way into death, Nikki. You're so dark.
Yeah,
sometimes.
you literally said on your deathbed, you said when you die, they're going to say, oh, that artist died.
You know what? I think it's funny. You bring me back to the reading, and you know why I was thinking of that? Well, you grew up in New York, so you know, but Celia Cruz, which is a Cuban singer, really big in our culture. I remember her funeral, and it was like the funeral for like a queen, literally, just because she was so like beloved for her music and within her culture. And I remember when I was doing the reading, I had like a Celia Cruz vision, and I was having the vision of her death, like of when she died. And I took that, I interpreted that visual, and I was like, oh, when she dies. Like you have to go back. I'm sure on YouTube it exists, but like see the funeral for this woman. And it was like, she was like beloved for her art. Like I had never seen, I remember that that just stood out to me so much when I watched it. I'm like, that is such a, you know, as an artist, as a creative, I was like, that is the dream, you know, like to be like so beloved for your expression. So I had that vision when I was reading you. And then that's how I interpreted it. That's what I was understanding.
Yeah, that, like you saying that hit me like right in my chest.
Yeah, I'm gonna find you the link so you can see it.
That's so cool to know how your readings work, that in your head you saw an artist's funeral that you were like, you had a reference that human you knew of. Yes. And so like spirit you was like, let's pull that reference so you can tell her something.
Yeah, I think that's like what the gift is most of the time, is that I'm a really good interpreter. It's kind of like you're going to a museum and you see all these like different works of art, and I can like read the energy off of like what the artist is trying to say. So I'm like getting these visuals, and I'm understanding. Not always, I don't always get visuals. A lot of times I'm just like, you know, getting the download, but I can interpret quickly. And that's kind of why that's like my brain is doing that very fast.
You are quick. I mean, like how fast you talk, and like it's so satisfying to my brain. But like you go quick, and you're like, okay, and then this, and then you tie things together. And when you said that, like I can't tell you how much I held on to that. I held on to, okay, but I'm going to die as an artist, so it's going to be okay. And that got me through that time.
And to me, that is like what a good reading is at the end of the day, because like all the details, like the details that we really do want, like the ones you were talking about that you weren't getting, of course we think we want those, but you have to remember that like when a path is being formed and like a, prediction is being made, simply by observing the path and having too much information, we will like affect the path.
We'll stop
basically.
ourselves.
Exactly.
Because if you told me it's already said and done, signed, sealed, and delivered, you're going to be a music artist, I would have been like, oh, I don't even have to try. I don't have to like the fact that I was worried going into the booth that I wasn't going to do a good job because maybe I'm not meant to be a music artist made me do better in the booth. You know what I mean? So it's like, I couldn't say it was guaranteed. No.
Exactly. So you kind of have to like be okay. But then the idea is that hopefully the reading gives you a little bit of like whatever it is that you need to like hold on to, at the end. So you've already done this twice because you're moving into this space now. We're in the middle of it, but then you also, herbalism was kind of like a gift and a talent as well, right? Would you say? And then you monetized it. Are you like afraid of that with this one?
No. I just trust.
Okay.
I trust it with the herbalism, I didn't start off trying to monetize it. I just started off, I want to help people. I feel like I have information that they need that I can explain in a unique way, and I'm good at explaining. So I'm going to do that for people, and I'm going to just trust that the universe reciprocates. And when you do that, things work out and there's a path and you eventually find it. And obviously, like I mix that with my manager and having a business savvy sense. And like, you can't just hope and pray that it comes, you got to work. But it did end up coming back around. And I think that people always felt the heart that I had in it. And that's what made it last. That's what made me kind of not just be like a overnight sensation then gone as an influencer or whatever. Because I really did it with heart and I was dedicated. And that's one of the things I sang to myself in my inner child's higher self thing. I was
it's like a lullaby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was like, you really cared to explain everything in your blogs. You wanted people to understand. And I did. And I think people feel that no matter what. And people, right, are how you become successful. It's not like it's just numbers and money appears. It's people. So when you take care of people, they take care of you. So I feel the same with music. Like if I can take care of people with my music by telling the truth in my music and being as truthful and raw and vulnerable as possible, because that means that they'll feel it, that will care for them by helping to unlock and like giving them the music that their soul needs. And that's going to find its way to be monetized. I mean, I think I'm going to do some merch with it. I have this phrase that like also came through me when I first started like sharing my art and sharing my music. I didn't know how I was going to announce that I'm making music. So I started saying, I'm working on this art project. I'm in LA to like make this art that I like. And I was like feeling really motivated and inspired whenever something would happen. And I would like just kind of show a picture of the sunset or myself crying and be like, guys, I really hope you make your art. And I kept saying that phrase, I hope you make your art. And people are like, wait, that touches me. The same way that the artist dying thing touched me, people are like, I have held on to that and I'm starting to draw again or whatever. So I think I'm just going to make merch that says, I hope you make your art on a beanie and like a crew neck.
We're all getting the merch. Being intuitive was something I stumbled upon. I mean, I literally was a fashion and beauty editor. And same thing, if somebody would have told me when I was a fashion and beauty editor that I was going to be this like weird psychic, like I'd be like, fuck you, like, like leave me alone. So I did not know that information either. Found myself here. And while I'm so like grateful for the gift, it's just, to me, it's a gift that same thing I learned to like monetize. But what I'm really like obsessed with is gifts and talents. Like I really do believe that. Do you remember that scene in The Little Mermaid, the cartoon version one that we like grew up with or whatever, that she's always using a fork and she thinks it's to brush the hair or whatever. And I always think about like that we're like living life as like that fork that is being used to, what does she call it? Like a dingle hopper or something. And I'm like, I feel like we walk through life sometimes as like a dingle hopper when we're actually like a fork. And what that makes me feel is like you're less potent and less effective in life when you are not really being used for what like God designed you to be used for.
Yes.
And I feel like you are, to find out how you are designed is actually to discover those gifts, those talents, to love them, to value them, and to express them. Because, as like a brush, you're like half-assing it. But then as like a fork, you're like amazing. You can stab a piece of steak and put it in your mouth and you're really effective. So like for that reason, I'm like really into gifts, because I feel like then we really know kind of what we were intended for, what our design was. Do you think like everybody has gifts?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes. No doubt. No question. I think some people's gifts aren't necessarily as societally celebrated, which is why it is so important to surround yourself with people who recognize and see your gifts. I think that's like half the battle. I wouldn't be here if my mom as a child didn't recognize that I had an immense gift for singing and music and put me in every voice lesson she could get me into and whatever. So I think about Nick with this actually, because, his gift is, I'll call it being a vibe creator.
Mm-hmm.
When he worked in the company in OO, because he was like a major player in the company for many years, and he just went off to like find his thing, which was really exciting. But we used to always say, like, we would be with the team and we'd be like, what's Nick's official title? Like, he never even had an official title because he just did so much and held so much space. And everyone was like, he's the vibe creator. Like, when he's here, we're all okay. Like, and he's so necessary for that. And that same thing happened when I went to go record last week. I invited him to the studio. He came like for certain parts and certain hours. And my whole music team was like, when's Nick coming back? Is he coming tomorrow? Is he coming to LA? Because we need him in the studio. Like, it's just, it's not the same when he's not there. He holds a room. He holds people energetically. And that is such a gift. And that can be used in so many different ways, whether it's being a mental health professional, whether it's being, whatever, like a retreat holder, like he's also kind of psychic, and he's starting to do like painting readings, which is crazy.
Oh, I love the painting readings.
Last night he texted me his painting of like, he painted all these eyes and then like 2 cups. And he was just like, this is you. You're going to have a lot of eyes on you with your music, but your cup is finally full so you can handle it. And there's this other cup where people are going to want to take your tea, but you have to make sure that. I'm like, I love it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So yeah, there's that, like,
yeah. And it's hard. I think that, when your gift is like that, because for a gift to really like be like a talent almost, like to kind of move from gift to talent, I think it needs to be valued.
Yes.
And sometimes you can value it yourself if you're lucky to be able to like love yourself that much, or maybe somebody points it out and they value and they speak that into you, whether that's a parent or like a partner or a coach or whatever. But I think, half the times we walk around with these like dormant gifts because we have not learned to value them, or it's like nobody pointed out to you. It's, it's that old story of like the 7th grade teacher told me I was a good writer and I realized I was a good writer, like somebody pointing out that like how special those people are that point those things out.
There's this line in one of my songs and it says, when we do for each other, our hearts will recover. And it was inspired by a podcast that I did the day before I wrote the song, where I was talking to my friend Noel.
The Bible of, what is this like? This is like the Psalms of.
Everyone keeps telling me I'm singing hymns and psalms. I'm like, all right, let's go to church, babies. But essentially, I was like doing a podcast and I was with my friend, and she was saying how if this person didn't call and check on her during a time when she didn't even know how much she was struggling and how much she needed that phone call, she wouldn't have been okay. And I was like, man, do you see what we do for each other? And I told the story about my doctor when I went into her office with all these health problems and like overweight and high cholesterol. She was like, you're an athlete. And so she saw in me this gift, this talent, and you just need one person to see it. Just go towards that one person who's like, no, you're special. Like, you see what you're doing here? Right. And just like go towards those spaces. Like, don't go to spaces where people don't see you as having gifts.
No. And like, sometimes it's accidental. I grew up in a very science-based family. My father's a doctor. My mom was a science professor. My brothers are doctors, married to doctors. So then you have me, and it was like very hard because it is not that they didn't want to see it, because my mom is a pianist. My dad went to film school. Like, they wanted to be talent and creatives and all those things, but they did not have that. They were immigrants. Like, there was no strong root. Yeah. Like, they gave me the strong root by doing what they did. My mom looked at my dad like second year at NYU, and she's like, this thing is really cute, this like film thing you're doing, but we're immigrants, my friend. And like, we need to make money. Like, you can't be, you can't do film. And he was like, cool. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll become a doctor. And that was like the sacrifice he made for the lineage. But then by accident, they kept that going, like in the family where, like, they just didn't know that you could make money off of your gifts. And that when I moved to LA and I saw all these people like making money as like writers and things like that, that was like really inspiring for me. So like being in an environment that people can spot it.
Mhm.
And also that we just got to learn to value them.
And putting it out there, just like putting it out there unapologetically, throwing it out there day and day again, you know, like just keep posting about it, keep sharing. Oh, here's this poem that I wrote. Like nowadays with the internet, like the right person's going to stumble upon it eventually, or the people that are your audience will, I think, find it eventually. If you just are so stubborn and you just keep going, like your stamina can do a lot, and then you'll grow in your gift as you continue to put it out there.
Because I guess you're getting like almost feedback at the same time. Why do you think you're sharing while you're doing it? I know
there's an important thing there. It molds it. It's like an algorithm. You put it out there. Once it's out, that's what it is. Once it's out, you can energetically see it from different eyes. That's why whenever I post a video, I post it on either my personal Instagram or TikTok first, so that it can live somewhere in the ether and have eyes on it. And then I can feel into energetically what those eyes are saying it needs to improve. And then I improve it. And then I post it on my Organic Livia Instagram.
Yeah, that's almost like putting it on the wall and then stepping away from the painting.
Yes.
And then seeing it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we need each other. As much as we need each other to identify our gifts and see them, we also need each other to refine our gifts. We need, you know, people to kind of like chisel away at them a little bit, sharpen us. Okay. And like we need their even energetic lens in a sense.
Yeah, it's almost like the eyeballs make it real, I guess, at the end of the day too.
Yeah. And then once you start getting comfortable just putting things out there and putting, quote, bad art out there or whatever, then it's like you're building that muscle too for the day when you have something good and you're like really nervous about it and it's super personal to you to put that out there. Like you just kind of have to get used to being seen. I think that you've done episodes about fame and gifts where you said that there's this energy of like being okay, being seen, and almost like a little lack of self-awareness of like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that that gets built also when you just put yourself out. Even if one person likes it and one person sees it, it just builds your own comfortability with like the potential of shame.
Yeah. I remember when I was a young writer, you know, I was an editor at these different publications, and like, I remember like just being so afraid of like my work being published, but at the same time I was there to get published, you know, but it really is a muscle, and just getting used to people seeing you and experiencing you and all that. And then hopefully ultimately, you know, you see that you're like witnessed and people like love, you know, like love what you're doing or whatever.
And then some don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Some are going to be real triggered and going to project on you right away. The amount of messages I got like the last 2 days, like, oh, it's cute that you're doing the music thing. Like, yeah, I tried that once and like made the mistake that you're making of giving up my regular job and didn't work for me, but maybe it'll be different for you. Like it's instant. It comes on. One girl actually, like, God bless her, she messaged me and was like, you know, you were sharing about your music updates and I was getting really annoyed with you and I couldn't figure out why. So I journaled and I realized that it's because I feel stuck in my job and you're giving yourself the freedom I wish I could give myself.
Yeah.
So thank God I realized that. And I was like, thank you.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you just have to be like, I am medicine. And sometimes people take medicine and it's yummy and it has sugar, but sometimes medicine is bitter and it's annoying. So if I trigger you, I'm still doing my job.
Well, that's what I mean about you have to come into everything with that energy. Yes. That's the key to starting to like really step into your gifts. Once you can have that attitude about it, or at least like try to have that attitude about it, then I think your gifts can open up more and like be ready for you to share them and like just, I don't know, you unlock them.
So as we wrap up, I'm wondering, are we going to take dance classes?
Are you time psychic too?
Yes. Are we going to like dance? Are you going to take dance classes? Because like
I've been thinking a lot about that because my voice teachers are like,
only if I get to be a backup
when you're doing choreography,
dancer.
I'm like, who's doing choreography?
Yes, I'm going to be one of your backup dancers.
Can you imagine me hitting a little? Yeah, I'm going to have to do something.
Okay.
What else am I going to do on that stage?
I don't know, but I picture us like finding like a really great TikTok dancer star that we want you to be mentored by.
I would love that. I'd love any help I can get. Everyone's like, yeah, well, when you're on tour, you know, my voice teacher that I have a voice lesson with in 10 minutes is like, you know, you're going to have to start like walking on the treadmill while you're singing. That's your homework because when you're performing, and like every time I was recording a song, Carlos would be like, oh man, like this guitar that we're putting in here, it's going to be hard for whoever's playing your guitar on tour. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? We're making songs. Like that's all we're doing. And everyone's like, it's a little more than that, babe.
Well, you're being present, and that's your job. Let them figure out.
I'm thinking about the now. Yeah. But everyone's just like, yeah, well, when do you do this on stage? And I'm like, okay, God, okay.
I can't wait.
It's happening.
like,
You'll
a viral
be
dance.
VIP backstage, like before the show, being like,
and I'll like dress like a psychic,
shoulder.
so we can just be like, yes, so that we can just be like, no, I'm her on stage psychic.
Oh yeah, I was already telling my acupuncturist, I'm like, you're gonna be my traveling acu, because she like puts needles in my throat to unlock it too.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, because these muscles are a little tight. Wow, Nikki. So are you going to start helping people unlock their gifts? Is that the next stage for your business?
That's where my passion is. Like, I think that is kind of same thing. Like my intuition work, I'm so grateful for it. It's like got me my foot in the door. It gave me stability. I mean, it's changed my family's life. I was able to provide for my family. So I'm super grateful for it. But now same thing. Like I want to move into like more passions and creativities. And that's what I love. So I'm definitely moving into that. I'm scared because you're known for something, and then are people going to want to go with you? Is of course, but
the right people will.
Yeah,
and then you'll find new ones.
Exactly.
It's just like whoever needs that work.
Yeah,
I need that. The world needs that. This is like I hope you make your art. Nikki's going to help you.
Yeah, and I hope it's like a bigger. And I would even imagine it's probably even a bigger ocean, at the end of the day. Like there's probably more people interested in your music, maybe that would maybe not even ever buy your herb stuff,
Yeah,
like,
I totally agree.
You never know.
Stepping into that next gift it's an opportunity, even though you'll lose some people along the way. That's okay. They needed the last version of you, and now they get to go find someone else.
Exactly. And that stuff will always exist, as your company will always exist as well. So it'll still be there. But as artists, we got to move on. We got to go to the next albums.
Album. She's like, it's a metaphor. The album thing that I'm telling you, I don't really mean your Taylor Swift. And then I'm like, watch me. Okay, so we'll stay tuned for your next offering once you build out this body of work around health. I can feel it for you because I'm also stepping into my
psychic stuff. Well, I'm as your psychic friend, I know you're like channeling right now in the song, so it makes me very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I can't wait for you to share your next way to help the world and help them recognize what their gifts are.
Yeah. Love you.
Love you. Bye.